Welcome to Study Time, a televised home learning program produced by Rwanda Basic Education Board.
Hello, students. How are you? I hope you are okay. So you're welcome to biology lesson. As usual, you are with the teacher Claude. So it is senior 6th class. So you have to be ready. Make sure you have your notebooks where you can write some explanation of the lesson of today. So we are on unit number 9, which is nervous coordination. And the lesson of today is transmission of nerve impulse along the axon and also across the synapse. So remember, last time we have talked about the nerve cells, where we have described what's neuron and the parts of neuron. And then remember, we have said that neuron or a nerve cell is a cell that helps to transmit the information, the message from one part to another part, from sensory cell to central nervous, or from the central nervous system to sensory organ. So now we are going to see how the message can be transmitted across the axon. Remember, we have seen the parts of the neuron. We have seen also the axon. What's the axon? Is it the part that can carry message away from the cell body to another neuron. So we're going to see that. So you can ask yourself, what's the objective of the lesson of today? At the end of this lesson, you will be able to explain the mechanism by which the impulse is transmitted along the axon and also across the synapse. So you will be able to describe that mechanism. At the end of this lesson, you will catch something. So how the message, how the electrical impulse, remember, when there is a stimulus such as temperature, pain, right? That stimulus, it has to be detected by what you call receptor cells. Receptor cells, they are located in our body, in different sensory organs. Those receptors are there. So when they detect that stimulus have to be changed into electrical impulse, into nerve impulse. That can be transmitted to the central nervous system, to the brain, so that the brain can prepare the response of that. So now, how the information is going now to be transmitted across the axon membrane. First of all, suppose this is our axon. Then, when there is no message that is going to across this, the outside of the axonema, this one is called axonema or axon membrane. So it is surrounded by these positive charges. Actually, they are sodium. On the outside, we have these positive charges. Then inside there is a negative charge. So these negative charges, it stands for, we have chloride ions, and also inside here we have what you call potassium ions. But because remember, potassium ions is positively charged. But because we have other ions like chloride ions that are charged negatively, so that's why you see the inside is negative, and then the outside is what? Is positive, is surrounded by positive. This is when a cell, when it is at the resting potential, when there is no transmission of the message, transmission of the impulse. When the impulse is not passing through this axon, so the outside is now surrounded by positive charges, which are sodium. Then inside you have what? We have these potassium ions, because we have other ions. That's why it is negative inside. Are you together? And then when at this stage, this axon is said to be polarized. So there is no message that is going to across this. So this is what you can see here on this thing. So neurons, like other cells, are positively charged outside and negatively charged inside. So the membrane of the axon is said to be polarized. So at this stage, there is no message that is going to pass across the nerve. There is no stimulus. So now you can ask yourself, because you have this positive and negative inside, what's the potential difference across the membrane? Is negative. Actually, here it is the negative 70 millivolts. Yeah, this is when there is no transmission of the impulse. Are you getting this? This is the axon membrane at the resting potential, when there is no stimulus, when there is no presage of the impulse. Now, that's when the stimulus happens. When there is stimulus, for example, on the stimulus we have heat, we have pain, bite, and sound, and so on. Those, remember, we have talked about the stimulus. What is stimulus? Is any change that can happen in the body. Either that change comes from the external environment or internal environment of our body. So when there is this stimulus, so what's going to happen here? The action potential, or what you call message, is going to be generated. Suppose there is a message that is coming because there is stimulus. Stimulus that happen in our body. Let's take an example of the stimulus. Suppose you touch on the hot object with your finger. When you touch on the hot object, actually that hotness, it is considered as what? As stimulus. So there is now the action potential that is going to be generated, that is going to be produced. The message is going to be produced because your receptor cells on your finger detect that there is a change. And that change is going now to be converted into the impulse. Now that impulse, it has to be transmitted to the what? To the central nervous system, to the brain and spinal cord, so that now you can get a response. The response that you're going to get is just to remove what? To remove your finger from the hot object. Are you getting that? So now, when the stimulus happens, what's going to happen at this membrane? So there is now positive charges that gets in. From outside, they do get what? Inside. So when the positive charges gets inside, and then the negative one gets outside, so now, at this, our message is able now to pass. Are you getting this? And this, we say this membrane, axon membrane, is now depolarized. Because there is a change of the ions. When the positive rush inside of the cells, our impulse can now be able to across. Are you getting this? So now, if there is positive that gets inside, the message will continue to pass. After passing here, so now there is positive now they get in, then on the outside, you can get the negative gets outside. So message can continue like that. Are you getting this? So now we say the axon membrane now is depolarized. The action potential can pass from this to the next one, to the next neuron. Are you getting the point? Now, so and as there is now passage of the message, the information across the axon membrane, so now it is no longer, the potential difference is no longer minus. It is now to become plus 40 millivolts. Because now there is a message that is going now is passing across the nerve impulse. So now, during the action potential, during the message, the membrane falls down until the inside become positive. So here we have now positive charges inside of this axon membrane. So now, as I have said, the charges are going now to, the potential difference is going to change from minus 75 to 40. So here it doesn't mean this value, yeah, it can even move to, it is just estimation. It can also be this one, don't worry. It is not exact. So now, when now this potential difference is changing from negative to positive, so now there is what? There is electrical change, and then the message now is passing across the. As I have said here, when there is action potential, this one is called action potential. It is a message. When the message is passing, there will be difference in the charges, in the potential differences, where it can vary from minus 75 to 40. And then when the message is passing across the axon membrane, there is now, because remember, when it is now at the resting, the outside membrane is surrounded by these positive charges. Then inside you have negative charges. So when the message is passing, there is positive charges, those are sodium, that move inside. When it is moving inside, that process is what we call depolarization. So can allow now the impulse to pass, to continue passing. Now, as the impulse is transmitted across the axon membrane, the sodium-potassium pump of the axon membrane are re-established. Re-established, which means here when the message is passing, so positive can now go back to the outside, then negative come in. That's what you call the re-establishing. So, and when it reaches here, yeah, here this positive can now go here, then our negative will come inside. Are you getting this? And then when the message reaches here, so the positive come in, then the negative go out. So the message continues. So when it reaches here, the same. This positive gets in, and then the negative go outside. That's what we're talking about, re-establishing. Are you getting this point? Nice. So now, you can see, you can see here, are establishing sodium channel open first, allowing a large number of sodium ions to flow in. So which means here we have sodium channel that open, then sodium ions get in. When it gets in, now the message can now continue to pass. But as the sodium channel continue to open, more sodium ions can get inside. So then there is now action potential. That's going to continue to be transmitted. Nice. So then, the membrane, as the membrane, more sodium becomes in, there will be the time where there is now closing of the sodium channel, so that more sodium ions, positive ions cannot be continued to get inside. Are you getting this? And then there is what? This potassium ions channel start now to open. Why is it opening? Why is it opening? Isn't just to flow out. Because here we have this inside, it has to flow out. So then what's going to happen? Because now our message now has been passed, so we need now to, again, to repolarize this axon membrane. So what's going to happen now? So sodium channel have been closed. If it has been closed, we have less positive charges inside. And then if there is this less charge inside, so what's going now to happen? For even potassium ions that have been goes outside, it's going to close. If it close, so now we are going to do what? To have less positive charges. And then finally, so there is now re-establishing of resting potential, where now it come again on this 70 millivolt. So now, then membrane also can also become polarized. As remember, polarized means here we have the positive charges outside, and also have negative charges inside. So now it becomes again at the resting potential. So when there is another stimulus, the process will be the same. Are you getting this point? So now this is how the impulse can be transmitted across the axon membrane. Are you getting the point? Number one. So number one, we need stimulus first of all. When stimulus is coming, so there is now charges, positive charges from outside of the membrane that gets inside. So in that case, there is what you call depolarization. So that one allows the message to across this axon to the next one. Are you getting the point? To the next one. So then finally, when the message now is passing, this has also to become depolarized again, where we have more positive, and then inside we have what? We have the negative, outside positive. So are you getting something? Nice. So this is what we have talked about. It is just a diagram we used here on the screen. You can see here we have negative, positive outside, and then this is at the start, when the membrane is completely polarized. So now, you see sodium now, they get in when there is stimulus. When sodium gets in, this can allow the message to across this axon membrane. So the action potential now is generated. So there's sodium ions continue to do what? To get inside. And then potassium ions also will go outside. And then finally, you see what will happen here. Potassium now can get in, then sodium also, so that this membrane can be depolarized again. So now let's see the transmission of impulse across now the synapse. What is synapse? Synapse is the point where two neurons meet. The junction of two neurons is what you call synapse. And then how the message is going now to across that junction. So you have to follow now. Here it is across the axon membrane. Now we are going to see how the message can across now the synapse. First of all, there is arrival of the impulse. The impulse has now to do what? To come. So suppose this is one neuron, we have the next one here. Can have the next one. So this is our axon membrane. So when there is arrival of the message impulse, when the impulse is coming, so then it's going now to across this axon membrane. And this one is what we call presynaptic cell. So when the message reaches here, there is calcium ions that gets inside here. Calcium gets inside. Here we have now what you call vesicles. They are called synaptic vesicles. Those synaptic vesicles, they contain what you call neurotransmitters. They contain what you call neurotransmitters. Neurotransmitters. The role of these neurotransmitters is to allow the impulse to pass. So when this calcium comes here on this joint to this synaptic vesicle, they are going to be released. When they are released, they are going to be passed across the synapse. Then they bind on what? On the receptor. Here we have receptors. This is what you call post-synaptic cell. Are you getting this? Now, let's see what's happened. Now, there is arrival of this impulse on the synaptic knob causes the opening of the calcium ions into the presynaptic membrane. Now they get inside here, calcium ions. And then those calcium ions, they have to flow in the presynaptic region from the synaptic cleft. Calcium ions induce the few presynaptic vesicles to fuse with the presynaptic membrane. So this can come here, then release what? Those neurotransmitters. When neurotransmitters are released here, they are now going to cause the opening of what? Here we have sodium ions are going to open, then our message is now going to pass. So when this one is opening, then sodium gets in, is what you call depolarization. Then our action potential is going now to be generated. So the one example of a neurotransmitter is what you call acetylcholine. When acetylcholine is released, comes here, it is going to cause sodium ions to do what? To open. When sodium ions are opening, our message can now pass. Then finally, so we need enzyme called acetylcholinesterase that comes also to release this one, to break this one, so that this can also be reabsorbed back. So then our message now is passing. So that's how the message can do what? Can across the synapse. Are you getting this point? Nice. The neurotransmitter then binds with the receptor, as I have said, and then this can cause the opening of sodium ions. When sodium ions are opened, so now our message can now pass. This is what you call depolarization. So after depolarization, we need to remove this neurotransmitter. So we have enzyme called acetylcholinesterase that's going to come to break down what? To break down this acetylcholine, for example, one of the neurotransmitter. Then we get what you call choline and acetic acid that now can be reabsorbed back here. By using here we can have mitochondria that contain the ATP energy that can be used to come again here, so that by the next time also impulse can now across. Now, yeah, this is what we are talking about. The enzyme called acetylcholinesterase is going now to catalyze this. So this is the diagram I used on the screen. It is there. Now, yes, we have now synapse. Synapse is here, where the two neurons can meet. What's the function? What's the role of the synapse? The synapse, they allow information, message to be transmitted from one neuron to another neuron. That is the one function of the synapse, is to transmit information between the neurons. If the synapses are not there, the information cannot be transmitted between the neurons. So the main function of the synapse is to convey information between the neurons. Remember, in the brain you have millions of nerve cells. And then those nerve cells or neuron, information has to cross that one. Are you getting this? Nice. Now, another function of the synapse is just to allow information to pass in one direction. Because when this impulse is coming, this message, because it needs that it has to pass across this, it will flow in one direction. So synapse can allow the information to pass in one direction. Another one, the synapse act as the junction. The junction means junction where the neuron can meet. So if it is a junction there where the neuron can meet, so because we have also this synaptic vesicle that will be released on this side, so the information can now pass easily. Another function is filter out of the raw stimulus. So because synapses are there, sometimes you can have the raw stimulus, the weak information, the weak message. When the weak message is now generated, the impulse will not allow to pass across there. So now we can have now the homework of today. You will be able to explain the mechanism of transmission of the nerve impulse across the synapse. Then you will outline 4 functions of the synapse. So continue to do the research. I hope by next time you show me how you did. Thank you. I can say goodbye. See you next time.